Hey everyone, Dana here. When I left the US and moved to Europe, I of course expected to learn a lot about the place that I was moving to. And living here in Germany, I have definitely learned a lot about Germany. Like that this hat is not a German kind of hat, but a Bavarian style one. But I don't think I realized just how much I would realize and learn about the US, about my own country living here in Europe, how I would start to see my own country in a way I had never been able to see it before, now that I was able to look at things from a different perspective, from a more outside kind of perspective. And living here in Germany, there are some things about the US that I have learned to really appreciate. I've learned that they're a special part of the culture in the US, and living away from the US, I have actually come to value them even more. And then on the other side of things, there are also some things about the US that I've realized that I don't like so much. But the thing that I'm talking about in this video is actually something about the US that I realized was ridiculous and not good before ever leaving the country. This is something that I have known is completely messed up about the culture in the US for a while. What I didn't realize though is that it's not necessarily like this in other parts of the world. Before moving to Europe, I think maybe I just thought it was like this in lots of places, if not all places. But then I moved to Europe and began to learn that that's not the case. Over the years, I have also realized that many Germans are just as confused and concerned about why it is like this in America as I am. You probably already know from the title what I am talking about in this video: the concerning situation of sex and also nudity somehow often being regarded as bad and shameful and really quite sinister in the US, while violence, especially in, movies and TV shows, for example, that's what I'm going to be focusing on in this video, is often in the US somehow not. In the US, the Motion Picture Association of America assigns ratings to movies: G, PG, PG-13, R, and from what I was able to find online, it seems like PG-13 movies, which are rated for 13-year-olds and up, are often allowed to have scenes showing intense violence. But as far as sex and nudity goes, PG-13 movies seem to be able to show some nudity as long as it's not in a sexual way. If it's nudity in a sexual way, then I guess that would often be an R rating, which R is rated for 17-year-olds and up. And I'll link to some more information that I found down in the description box below. But yeah, basically my point here is that there seems to be a tendency in the US for sexual themes in movies to more often lead to an R rating, while intense violence seems to often be okay for PG-13 movies. And over the years, I can recall hearing about people in the American film industry making statements and talking about how they had to cut this bit of nudity from the final film, or they had to exclude something sexual because they wanted that PG-13 rating, but that lots of violence was just permitted and fine for the PG-13 rating. And then in the case of some movies getting an R rating, I've also heard about instances where some parents in the US bring their kids to see a movie anyway when the R rating is due to violence. For example, The Passion of the Christ. When this movie came out in 2004, I was 18, and I can remember this being a big discussion in the US, that some parents were bringing their pretty young kids to the movies to see this R-rated, very violent film. I haven't seen the movie myself, but from what I have read and heard, it was apparently a really powerful movie. It won some awards, but I've heard it was also a really, really graphic and very violent movie, and probably not a movie for kids. That's why it got the R rating. However, yeah, I remember when this movie came out, there were lots of people talking about how lots of parents, some parents, I don't know how many exactly, were bringing their kids to see this very violent R-rated movie. But would they have been so quick to bring their children to see an R-rated movie if the rating was due to nudity or sex? I can remember a lot of people were guessing no, that wouldn't be the case. So why is that? Why are Americans often more comfortable with their kids seeing violence in movies but not nudity? When reading up online for this video, the film The Sessions is one that came up. This is a film about a man who is paralyzed from the waist down who hires a sex surrogate. I have not seen the movie, but from what I read and the clips that I have seen, it appears that the way sex is handled and talked about in the movie is really openly. And also it seems to be in a very touching and kind and caring way. However, yeah, in America, this movie is rated R due to graphic nudity, frank discussions about sex, and strong sexuality in general. And as I said, an R rating in the US means that the movie is rated for 17-year-olds and older. If you're younger than 17, you can't get into a movie theater to see an R-rated movie without a parent or adult guardian with you. In Germany, there is also an organization that rates movies, the FSK. And you know what this movie, The Sessions, got rated in Germany? FSK ab 12 freigegeben, meaning suitable for ages 12 and over. So the movie is rated for 12 years old and up in Germany, while it's rated R, 17 years old and up in the US. Interestingly, another film that came up again and again when I was looking online about this topic is the film The Dark Knight Rises, which was brought up for being rated PG-13 in the US, even though it includes lots of violence. And this film is also rated FSK ab 12 freigegeben in Germany. So do you think that films with lots of violence should be rated for older audiences, or do you think films with nudity or sex should be given FSK 12 or PG-13 ratings? Yeah, let me know what you think down in the comments. But of course, then there's also the question of what is nudity and levels of nudity. And I talked a little bit about this in this video here. You know, I mean, in lots of G-rated movies, you have men without their shirts on. Like, for example, in Aladdin. Aladdin is basically running around mostly without a shirt on, you know, I mean, that little vest thing, okay. But then if you had a woman without their shirt on, I guess that would automatically be a PG-13 rating. And is this different in America and Germany? In Germany, yeah, so lots of questions. So my question for you is, what are your thoughts on this topic? What movie examples come to mind when you think about this topic? And how is this handled in other countries? Please let me know in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoy my videos, please don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you can be one of the first people to watch new videos when they first come out. And if you enjoyed this video, think about giving a like with the like button. Thank you. And a really, really, really big thank you so much to our patrons on Patreon who help make these videos possible. Thank you so much for your support. If you would like to check out our Patreon page, you can find a link to that down in the description box below. Until next time, auf Wiedersehen.